sailors, and welcome to Sail Smart Skills, where we're going to get a little bit more in depth into some of the manoeuvres you might find around stage 3 or stage 4 of your sailing career. Coming alongside is when a sailing boat normally goes up to a powerboat, so they're next to each other to have a bit of hot chocolate, maybe a chocolate bar, or maybe just a chat. But it's a good way to stop, take a breath before you start sailing again. Now, with all seamanship manoeuvres, you can normally split them up into 4 sections. And these are plan, approach, manoeuvre, and escape. So plan, we need a plan. We need to know what we're going to do before we get there. Approach, now that's how we're going to get to the point of doing the thing. How do we get to that point in the best way possible? Manoeuvre means doing the thing. You might get there and have to do something. That's the point to do it. And finally, escape. Now, we always need an escape plan. A bit like James Bond, we need to know if it goes wrong or not exactly the way we want it to, how do we turn around and have another go? Plan, approach, manoeuvre, and escape. Next, we're going to have a little look at spill and fill. Now, this is the name of a technique that we use all the time in seamanship manoeuvres. It's where we pull our sail in and let our sail out to control our speed so that we can approach things steadily and safely. Spill and fill. Now, I've got my boat and I've got the whiteboard back. So, if we've got the wind coming from the top of the board and we want to get to this point here, for this example, we're not going to have tide. I want to get to that point. Now, the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to approach on a close reach. Now, that's not right up against the wind and it's not sideways, it's in the middle. A bit like that. Now, on this point of sail, I can sail upwind, and if I need to go faster, I can pull in my sail a little bit. And if I need to go slower, I can let my sail out all the way so that it flaps, but I'm still pointing at where I want to go. Now, using this, spilling of the sails by letting it flap and filling of the sails by pulling them in, I can control my speed and approach whatever that thing is at the speed that I want to, which is probably going to be slow and controlled. Top tip on this technique is never stop. Go as slow as you can. As soon as you stop, you might find you start to slip sideways. And that way, we might actually miss what we're going for. Now, quite often in centres and clubs, this is going to be a rib. And ribs are fantastic for practicing this. Normally, because they've got an instructor in it that can help us, but also because they've got slightly bouncy sides. So if we do have a little bump or we get it a little bit wrong, we're going to bump and not crash. So this is what we're going to use as our moored boat, and we're going to pretend that it's on a mooring. And once again, we're going to sail up to that boy, see if you can get it, on a close reach. Well done. So from downwind, we're going to start sailing up on a close reach. We're going to get a little bit closer, and we're going to need to start slowing down. But remember, when we're spilling and filling, we don't stop. For the final bit, we want to get right up and alongside. So we're going to have to continue a little bit of speed and turn and head up so our boat is parallel to the powerboat. And as a general rule, I always aim to have my shroud or my mast in a single-handed boat next to the steering wheel of the rib. Something like this. So the key points here: close reach, spill and fill, shroud next to steering wheel. Now, not forgetting our last part of plan, approach, manoeuvre and escape. If we need to get out of this without crashing, in this position here, which is probably the closest we're going to get, we can bear away and sail off and have another go. If you get into trouble at any other point, you can do the same thing. Bear away and sail off, or if you get stuck at the beginning, bear away, sail off and start again. Well done, sailors. Now we're going to make it a little bit more complicated, and I'm going to add in some tide, which is going to be the blue arrow. So For this, the wind is coming from the top, like it was before, but there's also a little bit of tide that's making the water move from the top down to the bottom of the board. And if you've got this condition, which I would call wind with tide, both of them together, you don't have to change anything that you've done so far. You might have to change where you approach from if there's lots and lots of tide, but largely with a couple of goes, you should be able to get there. However, if I take the tide and we put the tide at the bottom here, so we've got the wind coming from the top and the tide pushing up from the bottom, we've got what we call wind over tide. And if we try and do the same maneuvers in the same way, the tide is going to push us a bit too quickly. So we're going to change the maneuver, and you'll see that our boat has swung round and it's now got the back of the boat to the wind because the tide is pushing it in that direction. So we know how we start most of these things, and we start on a close reach. We're going to sail up so that we're to windward, which means closer to the wind, to windward of where we want to get to. Once we get there, we're going to go head to wind and we're going to drop our mainsail. Once we've dropped our mainsail, we're going to sail downwind towards the other boat. Remember, it's really good to practice this with a rib. In our plan, we would have decided which side of the rib we want to go. In this situation, I'm going to come to this side because they're so straight on, it doesn't really matter. Just like before, when we get close, we're going to need to start slowing down. So we can furl our jib is brilliant. If we can't do that, then we can take the stopper knots out the sheets and we can let that whole thing flap out the front of the boat. Or we can take the jib down. So the key points are close reach, mainsail down, and jib alongside. Good job, sailors. That's all for coming alongside. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon for another video. All the best.